Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie and today we have another exciting video. Today I'm going to go over how you plant multiple trees in one hole following the Dave Wilson backyard orcharding method. Now I actually learned back in the 90s, I went to a class held in San Luis Obispo on one of their test orchards. And I've grown this way since the early 90s and I absolutely love it. So today, what we're going to be planting is we have some pollinators for my Dapple Dandy Pluot. I actually have a Santa Rosa plum that was supposed to pollinate it, but it doesn't seem to be working. I'll get tons and tons of, dozens and dozens of little tiny pluots form, and then they fall off, which means that they weren't pollinated correctly. So I have a Flavor King Pluot right here, and a Flavor Supreme right here. Now we're going to plant them in the same hole. And if you really would like to know more about the Dave Wilson backyard orcharding method, you can Google that. There's plenty of videos, but there's also a book by, and I've featured it before, by Anne Ralph called Grow a Little Fruit Tree. And so let me show you the hole and talk to you about why I dug the hole this size and why I'm going to do this. Here's the hole that I dug. And if you look at the pots here, it seems a little small. But these trees actually came about a month ago and they were bare root. So what we're going to do is we're going to dump all of that dirt into my trusty little wheelbarrow. Hi, you can see me here. And then we're going to plant these trees bare root in this hole. So let's get you in a little bit closer and show you the rules we need to follow. Now here's the roots on this tree. They look pretty healthy. We've actually got, well, let me go over the anatomy of this fruit tree. We've got a lot of new growth here by the roots. That means I kept the roots moist enough this last month in the potting soil. They're not black or anything. There's no root rot. There's no crossing, although right here I'm going to trim this root off because it's going up over this root. And I don't want it to choke that root out. But all of this growth is underneath the rootstock. If you can see right here, there was a cut made. This is the rootstock, and this is the desirable tree up at the top. We do not want rootstock growth coming up and taking over this tree. So anything that is rootstock growth is going to come off. There we go. Let me show you how I'm going to prune this root. So we're just going to take this root back where it connects and just cut it off. Don't be afraid to cut the roots off of your plants because you would rather take care of any of the broken, damaged, dead roots right now, like this one's broken, and not have issues with your plants later. Okay, that looks pretty healthy. We'll stick that in the hole and get the other tree prepared. Now here's my second tree. The roots look really good on this. There's not as many small feeder roots, but that's okay. Those will develop over time. Here's where they grafted the tree. Here's the rootstock. Here's the tree that we want. So let's show you how I'm going to plant these in the same hole. So hopefully you can see this. One of the main rules is we do not want the roots, we do not want to bury this too deep. We do not want to bury it above where it was buried in the soil previously. And this is the level that it was previously. So this tree needs to be that deep. So I think this hole is good for that one. Let's check the other one. Yeah, we've got it just right. Now the second rule that you need to follow with this planting method is you want the trees angled out just a little bit. You can plant them as close as you want. The hope here is that these roots will fuse together, and they will do that. They'll fuse together and feed each other, and we're going to prune this so that it looks like it's one tree. We're not going to prune them as separate trees growing opposite directions. We're going to make it like a multi-trunk tree. So let's get this buried and see how it looks. So there we have it, and my muddy hands. This is what it's supposed to look like when you plant multiple trees using the Dave Wilson backyard orcharding method. Now, actually, this is what it would look like if you had 3 of them. You could put 4 in a hole, 3 in a hole, it doesn't matter. You can line them up and espalier them against a fence line and put them close together, but you can plant them as close as you would like. I would definitely leave at least a foot, maybe 18 inches apart. These are about a foot apart this time. Now I'm going to prune them so that they stay small. We're not going to let these get to be full-size trees. I'm going to try and keep these between 5 and 6 feet tall. These are actually semi-dwarf rootstock. Now, one thing you may have noticed is that I did not talk about adding fertilizer or amending the soil, and I never add fertilizer or amend the soil for any of my trees. Now, I will not get the same fantastic, amazing growth the first year, maybe even the first 2 that some people get with their fruit trees when they heavily amend their soil. But that's not what I'm looking for. I am looking for root development. I'm looking for these roots to go out and find their own way in the soil because it makes a stronger tree in the long run. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mulch these trees pretty heavily. So let me get the mulch back over the top of them. So there we go, we have the mulch around them. Now, there's several different thoughts about mulch. The general rule that you should follow that makes good sense is not to pile mulch up against the trunk of the trees, because supposedly that will aid in insect problems and rot. But there's actually newer research being done. If you use wood chips, you can pile those against the trunk of the tree without any detriment. Now, it's called volcano mulching, and I don't generally use that method, but I have seen it used in an orchard with peach trees in Syracuse, Utah, and it worked beautifully. There was no rot, there was no extra growth from the base of the tree, no insect pressure. Matter of fact, I think it helped those trees survive a colder climate than they would have normally survived. Now, hopefully you can see my face, but we're not really going to be looking at my face. We're going to be looking at these trees, because right now we're going to do the part that is the most difficult for everybody to do correctly. And it's the most difficult because it's extremely painful. But this is the right time of year to be doing this, and these trees are the exact right size to be doing this. You want to have bare root trees. You want to get them in the ground while they're still dormant, and then you want to make the first cut before they make their first push of new growth. Now, this is going to be a very short pruning video, because let me show you where the first cut is going to be. This is my knee height. I'm 5 feet tall, so I'm going to go a little bit taller than that. And I'm not going to pay attention to where any buds are or any branches are. We're just going to make a slightly sloping cut right there. Let's do the same thing on the other one. About that high. We're not going to leave that branch. I think this one's a little taller. Let's take it a little bit shorter. Slightly sloping. Now let me show you my beautiful trees. Now I'm going to put the tags on these so that I know which one is which. The tags will come off quite soon. I just need to be able to remember. So there we go. Now, you may be wondering why we need to make such brutal cuts. Why could I have not left some of those branches? And it's because I want these trees to stay 5 to 6 feet tall. And to do that, we need to force low-growing scaffolding branches. So what this cut has done is it's going to force all of the branches and all of the latent buds that are below that cut to push out new growth. And I will show you in the summertime what we're going to do with that and how we're going to choose which branches to leave. Well, actually, we're going to choose which branches to leave next spring, but I'm going to show you how we're going to do our pruning on those to make sure we have a nicely branched, beautiful, strong tree. Now, let me show you my peach trees and show you what they will kind of look like a little bit once they're done growing. Now, here's 3 peach trees that were planted in the same hole. You can see how close together they are. And I let them get about 8 feet tall. Right now they're taller because I haven't pruned them yet. That's coming up. But I very carefully pruned these so that they would have strong scaffolding branches. Now, this tree right here has been a really sad one for me. This is my O. Henry peach, and I have not been able to make myself thin the fruit enough, and the scaffolding branches weren't strong enough So we've lost 2/3 of this tree. And I'm hoping maybe I can do some bud grafting or something like that to see if I can regrow some of these side branches this summer. I'm going to learn how to do that. But anyway, this is a tree that I absolutely love. This is a O. Henry peach. We've got a lemon Alberta peach over there. And this tree is a nectarine. They're getting ready to bud out, so I really need to get to the pruning. That's going to happen as soon as I can. Now here's 3 more trees. They're planted a little bit closer together than the peaches were. This is a pear in the front and 2 apples. Let me back up so you can see them. And I need to get these pruned also. I keep these about 6 feet tall. And these are all of these trees that I've showed you are on standard rootstock, so they should be 15 to 20 feet tall. But when you prune them correctly, and that includes summer pruning, which we will show obviously in the summer, you can restrict the growth on the trees. Now, these trees were pruned too heavily last year, and they have a lot of sucker growth. So I'm going to show you when I do the pruning on these trees how I'm going to try and control this and not have it happen again. And this is what a Dapple Dandy pluot looks like when it's been pruned in the grow a little fruit tree method. So this one's about 5 feet tall, and in June I will prune any of the taller sucker growth down to the point where I want to keep it, which is not going to harm the buds, because you can see the buds have already formed. So what's going to be growing in June is more vegetative growth. So I will cut the vegetative growth down to the height that I want it. I'll do that again in August. And then I do the shaping in early spring. Unfortunately, I already did the shaping, so I can't show you how I did that. But you can see where the first cut was made down there. That's as tall as the other pluots are. And then you just choose the growth that comes out of it. Now this tree has been put in between 2 large blue spruces. These blue spruces were about half the size when I planted this tree. So they have grown a huge amount, a lot faster than they did before I planted this tree. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe they don't like their space invaded. But I'm hoping that this tree will continue to survive. I do get a couple of pluots off it each year. This is about a 5-year-old tree. And I'm hoping having the 2 pollinators close by will give me more fruit. So here we have another tree. I planted this tree last year, and I had been planning on letting this tree get a lot bigger. But I realized that I have so many things that I want to plant that my space is really at a premium. So I think I'm going to grow a little fruit tree on this. Now it's a little bit late after it was planted, and this is a little bit big to be doing this, but we're going to make that first cut anyway, even though it's a 2-year-old tree. So let me show you where I'm going to do that cut. I'm going to take this tree at the same place that I took the other trees. I'm going to take it just above my knee height and hope for the best. So there we go. We've got those trees in the ground. They're ready to go. And I will show you the progress and show you in June how I do the summer pruning. Now we're going to plant 2 more fruit trees in a hole, but we're not going to prune them in the same way, and I'll show you why. Now here's the next place that we're going to plant fruit trees. And I have 2 apples here. And they are a little bit different. These are columnar apples. This one is bare root. I just got it yesterday, and I've been soaking it. You can see kind of how the roots have been cut up. This one's a Scarlet Sentinel. And this one right here, I got at a local nursery. This one's a North Pole. And as you can see, the maturity and the size is a little bit different. And that might be a little bit of an issue, but we're going to try it anyway. We don't want this larger tree to overtake the smaller one, so I'm going to do a little bit of pruning on the larger tree. But columnar apples need to be pruned a little bit differently than other trees. So let's get these in the hole, and I will show you how I'm going to prune them. Now, as I said before, I don't want this tree to outcompete this tree. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I am going to tip this tree right here. This tree was tipped right here. So I'm going to take this tree down to this point, tip this one, and then they should be close to the same size. Now the reason I'm taking this tree to here is we've got lots of side branches that can now become the main leader. So we're going to take this off down here. Try not to make it too close so that it has a chance to seal over. And then we're going to head this branch back just a little bit so that it doesn't overtake that branch. I'm going to leave these two branches to keep growing, and then I'm going to tip this one over here. So I'm just going to take the growth tip off of it. A little bit of an angle. This way we're going to force a little more scaffolding branches on it, just like this one has, at hopefully close to the same height. There we have it. We have our 2 columnar apples planted. Hopefully it works out. Now you know how to plant 2 trees in one hole. It would be the same exact principles with 3 or 4 trees in the same hole. And you know how to make the first pruning cuts. We will take you along on the ride through the June pruning when it's time to prune. And I'll show you updates periodically so you can see how they're growing. So thank you for coming along with me on this adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.